What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Spencer taking a look at this Melffy Spright deck. Extremely fun to play, and I'm just going to go over the card by card, and then I have some bonus gameplay at the end if you haven't seen it or you want to watch a little bit more. So I have 3 Imperm here, 3 Ash Blossom, and 3 Effect Veiler. Just, I don't know. I think like regular hand traps are actually pretty good right now, especially if you play like branded. You can just like stop them from playing, you know what I mean, with these 9 hand traps. And I don't know, in my experience when I play tier, stopping them early like really limits the size of their end board. Now they're gonna probably be able to play through, but it's and sometimes you really do get punished by just having like a single Ash Blossom in your hand. Your opponent just kind of combos off after that. But I don't know. I'd like this general hand trap lineup has worked really well for me, and I like it where it's at now. I wouldn't play anything more extreme than this. I feel like it's won me enough duels, just like playing against kind of everybody. And 3 Rescue Cat. This card is kind of interesting. It's almost worth playing Nimble Beaver over this, to be honest with you, because the only problem is this brings out 2 beasts, which is great. It kind of gets these names in rotation a little bit quicker, like Wally and Puppy. It gets those names in there kind of more. But it's a 4, right? So if you normal summon your opponent like Imperms, then you don't really have a way to get a 2 on board, and I've kind of been stuck. Now, luckily, if you have a Melffy in your hand, it's going to special summon itself anyways, which is like makes a really big difference. So that's kind of where it's still worth playing this. But the reason I like to play this more over Nimble Beaver is because it could bring out a tuner from the deck, and that's obviously like makes a big. That's actually like really good. In the late game stages, if you want to go into a synchro, you could bring it back with Elf, theoretically, but it's nice to have access to something like that. It's also like Nimble Beaver in the sense that if it does go off, you get to bring out 2 level 2s, which is like also super important. 3 jet, 1 red, 3 blue, 1 carrot. I don't think that's kind of crazy. I don't think everybody plays carrot, but you're gonna have access to like most of your deck by like turn 3. That's just how fast the engine goes, and just kind of infinitely repeats itself, right? Wally comes out, brings out 2, it's in your hand. Wally comes out, bring back 2, it comes to your hand. And then you bring out 2 every turn, which is a lot. And then you have cards like Starter, and all of these cards create like a card loop, right? Jet and Blue are basically just give you unbelievable amounts of advantage. So I like to have the extra names in case I draw one, right? It's good when you see the extra one in your hand. Just having a monster negate and a spell and trap negate is good. I love this card. I don't really understand how other Spright players don't play this. Like, Cyberstein's crazy. Naturia Exterior wins you duels straight up. Sometimes it's an FTK essentially. You're playing against branded, they don't open up, like super poly, you just win, branded fusion, everything. It's obviously a spell based deck. See, it is good against tier 2. You just got to make sure that you put it in the zone that Elf points to. I had like a really long duel one time, and that really messed me up. So just having targeting protection for Naturia Exterior probably is enough to just win you the duel like most of the times. It also has a pretty nice 2800 attack body. I don't play any other targets for Stein. I'm sure there's probably other like super valid targets, but I don't know. It's only going to go off once, so I don't want to have more than 1 target in here. It kind of feels like a waste of extra deck space, especially when like this is going to get good against everybody. No one's playing monster mashup decks. Everybody's playing spells and traps. 2 Hop Ear Squadron. It's searchable off of Caddy. This engine is very precise because you can grab all of it, like I said, like pretty quickly, if not during turn 2. And this lets you synchro summon during your opponent's turn. That helps you go into the generic synchro for Melffys. And it also helps you go into Herald, right? Assuming your opponent's in main phase 2, right? Because it's such a small body, but I've won duels so many times when my opponent sets a card in main phase 2. Quick effect, hop your squadron, getting rid of something like Kalantosa, going into Herald. So whatever that set card is, I was like, their big play to break my board during my turn. Like branded and red and all that kind of stuff, and they just couldn't do it, right? Because I had that Herald negate up there, and it was fantastic. Melffy Penny, this is the one that synchro summons during opponent's turn. Now, I do play a tech card right here. I've been testing it a little bit. Cap Shelf, it's tributed, XYZ summoned or sent as material from XYZ, like they use the effect, and Link summoned. You get to draw a card every time, so it obviously works really well with the Spright engine, and it's also a level 2. Because like there's so many times where I've like had Wally in my hand and I'm like, I don't really know what else to bring out, because you're never going to bring out stunning because it locks you into 2s, so there's no use in doing that. Sometimes I'll go into carrot, sometimes I'll go into red. It just kind of depends. Again, this is just like a random tech card. Like you probably can just play Penny at 3. I just wanted to go over that because I think this is like one of those cool, tech cards that you just keep bringing it back with Elf. It's fantastic, right? You just get to draw a card every time you interrupt your opponent, which could give you another hand trap. Just one puppy because you only want to summon it Calamtosa, and that's kind of what I'm thinking about too, like cutting this and playing like another beast card. I don't really know if there's another good target. I don't really think there is, so yeah, the Melffy engine could use one more card, like at least not one of them being like interruption, like when the card's special summoned, maybe it like returns 2 cards to the hand. Something like that would like go a really long way, and I'd probably play puppy at more at that. And look how adorable it is. It's like one of the most adorable cards ever. But yeah, like I said, it brings out Calamtosa, which is just a pop, which is so great. Like 1 Wally is equal to a bounce because you're going to be able to get Penny to your hand. And you can use the Wally that you did to, summon it. Or the engine goes on and on, right? Because you bring out Wally, and then Wally brings out Puppy and Caddy, and then Caddy searches the synchro. But really what this represents at the end of the day is the bounce, right? The compulsory evacuation with Melffy's. I wish it was 1 card. It bounces 1 monster to the field. But it also, produces Calamtosa, so it's a pop and a bounce, just 1 card. And those are very good forms of interruption because the pop is any card on the field. And then Caddy searches all of them. So Caddy can search you the Penny, or Caddy can search you Hopier. Now, if you already have one in your opening, obviously it's very good because then you get to synchro summon twice, during your opponent's turn. I talked about Wally, obviously it's that 3. And then I like to play triple tactical talents. Like the cool thing about this deck, and the reason that it's like one of my favorites to play, is that you have answers for essentially anything, like at all. Like this is like kind of the end all be all. Like if somehow of all of this engine, like it doesn't do enough. So many times triple tactical talents has like won me the duel. I don't actually ever like to play this at 3. I feel like it's kind of sacky because if your opponent doesn't activate monster effects and you like see 2 of these in your hand, it's like, oh, you're really like gonna lose the duel at that point if you're in something like that. And it's obviously something that you can side out, but I do feel like going second, this is a really good card, and it can be good going first, obviously, and we're in tier format, so your opponent's very likely going to use monster effects. So this is a very, very good card right now, especially with Bestials in the format. And that's one of the great things about this deck too, is that you don't really play, you don't usually bring back the Spright monsters with Elf. You're always going to bring back like either Tuner to synchro summon or Wally because you want to bring out 2 right from the deck and have all that interruption. So that's why I play triple tactical talents. Called by the Grave is just a good card, in case you didn't know that. Spright Smashers, you want to have that extra search off of Jet. Maybe you already opened another starter and you don't need it. You want to. This is good form of removal, right? It's a non-targeting banishment. I talked about this a lot already, but yeah, having answers for every conceivable situation, and this is one of your main spell and trap destruction outs too, other than like Zeus specifically, and maybe even Juju. And then I'll talk about all my tech choices in a second, but yeah, you got to play a copy of Smashers. It's really, really good. And then 3 starters, it's crazy. The Spright engine is just absolutely bananas. And obviously that's where that main power comes from. But the Melffy engine does make a difference, trust me. It is actually like a really, really, really good level 2. I think it's one of the better versions of the deck that just nobody plays. I talked about it in Naturia Exterior, right? It's that target with Cyberstein at level 2. It's just so funny. And these are like my tech choices when it comes to the synchro engine. Draco Berserker has won me a lot of duels because when it destroys a monster, it gains attacks. You get to attack over something else. So if your opponent has like a weak monster on board, helps you get over your opponent's bigger ones. And obviously when your opponent activates effect, you get to banish it. It's very good against tier. It's very good against Bestials. This is a very good card right now, and it's generic. And you can go into it so many times where I just have all these bodies and I just don't know what to do with them. I don't need to go into, like, these are removal. The rank 2s are removal of some sort, right? Sky Cavalry helps you go into Zeus. Downer is obviously for Zeus too. And talking about like this card, like Cursed Javelin, talking about Oben Maru, Soul Sweeper, like those cards are just meant to, help you push through your opponent's board if they have like pesky monsters on. The synchros are kind of like your power cards. Now, I do use a little bit of an exception for that one, but Berserker is like a great example of something, Melffy's obviously is really good too, and Herald. These are kind of those defensive cards, if you will. And this works really well. Like you always have, you have to give up a lot of bodies because you got to add up to 8 with 2s, which is obviously 4. But sometimes like I've had a rescue cat on the board and that's helped me a lot. And sometimes I actually have like Melffys and I don't really need to use it anymore. Or Juju's another good example. Having bodies on board is not going to be your problem in this deck. The one thing else I wanted to mention before I go over the rest of the extra deck is I thought about playing the Tri-Brigade monster. I forget which one it's called. Oh, it's Karaz. I was thinking about playing that because it's a level 2, and obviously you can link summon into like the Ancient Warriors Link monster, and that's okay, but and it works really well because these are beasts. So it's actually like a really decent tech card. So if you wanted to drop that and drop one of these XYZ monsters, you can do that. I don't know, because the Ancient Warrior sends, right? And I do already have a lot of answers for that. I don't know. I just wanted to say that because I'm sure. I know there's like actual like Tri-Brigades Spright decks too. But anyways, back to it. So Juju. So you want to have a Synchro 6 because there's so many times where it's like you have the play set up for it. It's okay, right? It's a good monster. It can't be destroyed by battle or card effects while you have 2 more monsters in the graveyard with the same original type and attribute. Obviously, it's very, very extremely easy for so many different reasons. So like this card works really well for that. And then you get to banish 2 monsters with the same original type and attribute and then send a card to the graveyard. Now it's targeting send, but it is send. And that can be really good. And it also can get rid of your opponent's spells and traps, right? And if it does have that, protection card and that card effect, that's really good against, taking out back row too. This is literally the best Synchro 6, I think, in the game. It's a very weak pool. Mary Melffy's is a compulsory evacuation and also can tag itself out and go into another form of interruption. Herald is just an obviously like general interruption. It's unfortunate you don't play any like ritual monsters, so you can't do anything with it, but it just literally works as a negate. Zeus, and that goes with Downer Magician, and here's where like all of that engine that you can use for rank 2. First one you're probably always going to go to is Sky Cavalry, right? It helps bounce some of your opponent's bigger boss monsters to the extra deck or whatever the case may be. But more importantly, you can just always attack into something. You don't have to worry about losing it. And then going into Downer, going into Zeus, and having 2 pops. This is Oben Maru Soul Sweeper. This lets you target a monster your opponent controls and banish it until your opponent's end phase. So that can help you, push for game. You can just get rid of one of your opponent's cards so that you have more attack on board. Or if it's a problemsome card, obviously it works too. I think there's one duel, and you may see it. I don't remember if I recorded it, where my opponent had Empen, and I just put this in defense position, banished his Empen, and then I was able to continue my plays after that. Gigantic Spright, no surprises there. Melffy of the Forest, this lets you add a Melffy card, and then also, if a Melffy bounces back to your hand, you get to negate a card on the field. So it can be, a lot of the times though, it's just kind of going to be sitting there as a 2k body. You don't always have like a bunch of Melffys in hand, like after you've gone into the Synchro. But it does come up, fairly enough to where it is worth playing for sure. And this is Cursed Javelin. This lets you target a card or a monster your opponent controls, and then it changes attack to 0. So again, just another kind of like card, a little extra deck slot. Just one of those you never know cards. Like if your opponent has a big body, you don't have any way to get over it. This is like one way to do it. And then 2 Spright Elf. You definitely need 2. I tried to play this at 1 at first, but I've always wanted an extra copy. So hopefully this card doesn't get touched on the ban list in a few months or a couple months now. It probably will, but hopefully it doesn't get straight out banned because it's really what holds this archetype together. I think that would be so lame if they did that. Spright Sprin lets you dump a level 2 to the graveyard, so you're going to be able to send something like Cyberstein. That's a good option. You can also send Capshell depending, right? If you're already below 5,000 life points, you can't use the effect of Cyberstein. This would be a good option to do that, and then you can bring it back and obviously just start like drawing a bunch of cards. Okay, the side deck, side decks are always just kind of like wonky. But, Dark Whirlwind of More, Lightning Storm, Cosmic Cyclone, Dimensional Barrier, and Evenly Matched. Nothing crazy here. I think that's kind of what everybody plays in their side deck. Okay, so let's hop over here and look at some replays. I don't know what I did differently. Okay. And we'll just take a look at a few of these. And I'm not looking at decks. I'm looking at replays. Here we go. So, decent matchup against Alabaz. All of these are against, like, half good decks. I think I was, like, 18 and 11 when I played in ranked matches. Whatever that's worth. Using this deck specifically. So, again, getting 2 names in rotation. I already have Wally in my hand. But I think I'm just going to go for the Cyberstein line right here. All you need is 4 bodies, and that's gonna get you there. I already had Starter in my hand too, so I get to search Smashers. This is like an extremely good hand with Ash Blossom and Wally. Kind of ridiculous, obviously. He did have a Bestial there, but like that's not really that big of a deal, like at all. I don't think so. Spright can go ahead and bring me out, and I can get Carrot, so it's another form of interruption. So maybe Cap Shell isn't even worth it. It's probably just worth playing an extra copy of Penny, to be honest. But I don't know. I've seen Penny in my hand sometimes. I don't know, kind of like, ugh, I wish this kind of did more. Has Super Poly. I hate this card so much with an absolute burning passion. I think it's the worst card ever. He's going to go for the Lubellion, and I'm going to go ahead and negate there. He did send the Druid Worm, so that's going to get rid of my Gigantic. And he's going to go for Branded Fusion here. We'll see what I'm able to do. I think all I have to do is just bounce this. Well, I'm down to resources, so I thought instead of using like Penny or something like that, why not just pop his card? Yes, he's going to destroy all my cards afterwards, but if that's all he's going to do, I think I'm okay. What I was hoping to do was go into my Hoppier and then Synchro Summon into the Melffys to send his, what's it called? His Albion to the graveyard. I ended up messing up my Smashers. That was a really bad misplay by me. I should have waited till he triggered it and then done for Smashers, but it is what it is. I'm still fine. Like, he doesn't really have anything going for him. Like, popping the, what's it called? I can't think of the name. Mirror Jade, here it is. I'm looking at it right now. That was probably the best play I made in the entire game. He's going to go ahead and banish that, but I'm going to go ahead and send it right back to the extra deck, right? That's the best way to get rid of Mirror Jade, and really the only way. I play a bunch of hand traps, so when he goes for the Branded Fusion, he's not going to be able to do anything with it. I don't think there's a really good target for Puppy at this point. Again, you're like, here's like most of the cards in my deck already there. So the only thing that's left is like hand traps pretty much, and like maybe like a few like Spright cards. But yeah, he did have Lubellion. He got rid of his Branded in red too, which is pretty rough. And then I'm going to go ahead and go into Herald. This was in defense position, and he searched the Luber. So my only goal was like, okay, I'm going to force him. He's either going to have to attack over this, which is fine for me, right? Because if he tries to use the search effect, I'm obviously going to negate that. So I felt pretty good. As long as I saw any level 2, like I was going to be good at that point. And then I drew Rescue Cat off the top. And then that's just going to be like full Spright combo at that point. Okay, so this is against Tearlaman. There's going to be a lot of these, obviously, because that's what everybody's playing. Seeing Kalimtos in your hand stinks really bad. Again, there's a Melffy that special summons a beast from hand, but I don't know. I just kind of take the brick for what it is. It doesn't really matter to me. Yeah. Normal summon Wally going to blue, because when your opponent plays during your turn, it's like, okay, well, I get to play too, because you're going to trigger my cards. Look how much, like, oh, I think he ended up passing, but yeah, this is such a strong, Wally is such a strong card going second, because if your opponent plays and they're immediately punished, right? This one Wally caused so much interruption, you know, he had to use Forbidden Droplets, getting rid of his own DD Crow. And that's, like, fantastic. Triple Tactical Talents, I'll get rid of the last card in hand. That's Ghost Bell. And now I'm, like, very much off to the races. I had Jet in hand. I think I searched it with blue. What do I even do at this point? Probably just go into a Cyberstein. It's going to give me a 2800 attack body, which is great. Can't be targeted. And see, I kind of feel like I messed up my zones here. Although, I guess I'm playing her on Imperm, but he would have used Imperm by now. That's actually just a misplay. Again, you always want to have this in that zone, because this is such a game-winning card. You want to have that protection for this specifically, but, yeah, like all these cards, you know. During, you know, my opponent has to use all this interruption just because of Wally, and it just leaves me wide open for the Spright combo. Oh, this card is a great matchup against Runic, like, because there's no really super important cards in the deck. It's just a rank 2 engine. That's all it is. So my opponent can banish every card that he wants. Now there's obviously some like very unfortunate ones, like Puppy's a one of, and that kind of stings. Kalimtos might get banished. That's a one of, and I can't even bring it out now because Puppy was banished. But he got rid of both of my kitties. Like all of this, you know, he's just kind of going through it. But I still have Wally. You know, I still have access to these tuners and everything. I still have access to this really powerful Spright engine. Smashers wasn't banished, which is great. I can normal summon. Yeah, look at this. Unbelievable. If this was blue and I searched, not Carrot, I know if I did search Carrot and I special summoned it, that'd be so great. But what I was trying to do was go into Elf and then bring back my Stein so that he couldn't target it with his effects, you know, and he'd have to basically challenging him to misplay. It didn't work out, but it, you know, I thought that was a little cheeky to at least try. And Imperm's obviously just like not super good against pure runic, but yep, that's one of those things. Can't be destroyed by battle. Or no, if it is destroyed by battle, it pops a card on the field, and I like couldn't afford that at the time. So I use this card, Obenmaru's Soul Sweeper, to get through, and I can attack for damage. Now I think I'd end up using Gigantic, so I kind of misplayed a little bit there, but he's gonna go for Trickshot Reincarnation. I need these cards in my hand, so I'm just gonna go ahead and negate that. Go into Jet. Jet can search me Smasher, so I can get rid of another one of his back row, or maybe even the field spell. I don't remember what I do here. I'm gonna get rid of that again. I'm gonna go into Sky Cavalry, and I think I'm gonna go for a Zeus play, which is going to be pretty decent. I can go into Zeus. I don't really know what was in the back. It's DD Dynamite. Just, yeah, I don't know. I guess that makes sense, right? 200, 300 damage feature of your opponents removed from cards, but I had all my life points left. He didn't do any damage to me, so he would have needed another one. And I have just, like, so much going for me. You know, I have the character thinking it's probably going to be more than enough, but you always want to have the Zeus, right? You want to use the Zeus as a last resort. And that's why, right? I would have lost if I didn't have this carrot out. So I ended up playing this like very correctly. I can bring back this rank 2. It ends up just kind of being a body, so I can banish it. Again, he could pop a card in the field when it's destroyed by battle. So this is against Sword Soul. Kind of interesting. The way this deck fell from favor so quickly. Like, I feel like even Albaz is around right now. This card was so dominant for a while, it felt like. And now it's just not much. It's not much. And this is Qinglong or Long Yuan. This is the one that banishes a bunch. But I can go ahead and just normal summon Cyberstein. He shotguns Druis Worm. I'm not sure why. But he ends up banishing my monster. But I'm just going to use Triple Tactical Talent. So now as I was talking about, like, it really does fill in the gap for everything else. It's kind of amazing. And then being able to use any... This is almost like the Sky Striker card. I can't... Zeke. It uses a Sky Striker card in any other material. Literally, it's like a level 2 in any other monster. So if you steal your opponent's monster or triple attack, you can get rid of those cards that are really hard to remove, right? If this card is destroyed by battle or card effects, it's such a good way to get around that. Okay, and this is against tier. I have like, I think I have a couple more tier matchups. Seeing Ash, seeing Triple Tactical Talents is very, very good for the opener. My opponent's going to start with Mudora, sending Kelbeck. I'm going to negate, right? Again, I think that it seems very weak. Like, you would think you would want Dark Whirl or more, but if I didn't stop that, he's going to be milling a bunch of cards. I'm saying he's probably going to have something else to play, but his end board is going to be very much limited because of that Ash Blossom. Like, once the first 5 cards get milled, that's when the problems really, really start, you know? So I think it's worth it. Now, he did have Merly, and he's going to normal summon, send a few, and that's going to get the ball rolling, but I think I'm going to be able to break this board. Looking how good my hand is, too. Right? If I can just normal summon my Wally, special summon Jet, my opponent's probably going to use a monster effect at that point. That's going to help me interrupt somewhere. So, I like where this is going. He's going to keep milling here. He's going to, luckily for me, he keeps milling a bunch of Abystials, I think. I think as the game goes on, he keeps doing that too. But he doesn't know what I'm playing at this point. This is game 1. Abyss Dweller does nothing. I literally have no effects in the graveyard. I bring stuff back from the graveyard, but Abyss Dweller doesn't stop that. So normal summon Wally, special summon Jet, go into starter. And I'm kind of off to the races at this point. I'm going to go for Sky Cavalry. He's not going to activate any effects. Not really sure why he did that. I don't know what negating the effects is going to do. I'm just going to go over Abyss Dweller, go into Downer, go into Zeus. He already brought this back. He's going to go into Druis Worm. Basically, so he triggers this, but, like, that's fine. Druis Worm doesn't really do anything. And he didn't actually interrupt, you know, my plays. The one thing that's terrible about tiers, right, is your opponent really, truly, like, gains advantage off of everything. Everything that gets sent to the graveyard gives them advantage. So if you remove it, it's, like, bad. He's going to go for Magnet Hut, and that's fine. Magnamut, I think it's called. You know, getting rid of this so he gets to Searcher in the end phase. But again, it's not like it actually interrupted anything. Like, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to keep going. He's going to go for Mudora there. I think he only has, like, 1 Shuffleback left. Yeah, he actually has no shufflebacks left, so that's cool with me, right? I'm going to bring back something. I can special summon Caddy during the end of the phase, so I can grab Hoppier. Like, Caddy's really, really good. He's going to go for Druid Swarm again. He's going to actually try to target the blue. So I'm thinking, okay, well, I'll just bring back blue. I didn't have anything else in the graveyard, like literally anything. So I don't really know how he's going to gain any advantage off of that. But, okay, he's going to go. I'm going to search myself a penny, and that's fine. He's going to go over my full board, but I have a lot of plays, you know, still to set up. He's going to try to link summon. He's going to try to go into the Charmer. I can just quick effect go into Melffy's. Boop. See you later. No chance to activate that effect, right? And I can probably just normal summon Cat, use the effect. So like actually, that card was like waiting in my hand the entire duel. It's just funny. I wasn't able to use it going second. That's what I was talking about. It's kind of awkward going second if your opponent responds to it immediately. Elf can bring back Wally, and I can just go to the end phase. He's going to go for Druid Swarm. That's fine. And that's going to trigger a bunch of my cards, which is pretty cool. So I can bring out 2. And I can negate the effects. I'm just going to go ahead and banish it because when it's sent to the graveyard, it, you know, it destroys one of my cards. I have Ash Blossom. I can bring out Wally, which is insane. This can't be targeted, of course. So I'm feeling pretty confident, right? Because this is also going to negate a monster. He just normal summons, I think it's a Guido, and that doesn't do anything. He's going to get over Herald, and that's kind of why it's like so weird. It's just such a weak body. I wish there was some sort of battle phase protection. I wish there was like a Melffy card that said your opponent cannot attack other cards that you control other than this card. That would go a really long way. I can go into Sprint. Sprint can send me Cyberstein. I can actually use the effect, which is really cool. And I can have like a big old gigantic Spright, which is cool. Not the end of the game, unfortunately. And I think that's like a well-known problem that is like really, really hard for Spright to assemble lethal. There's like one card that boosts us to like 6,400, but even that's not enough, right? So it's almost just like, this reminds me a lot of Sky Striker, where you don't really have that lethal shot, but you control the deal so much that your opponent can't play. And you just set up endless loops and just poke your opponent every single turn for just a little bit of damage. Okay, this is a couple of games against Flew Under Ease. This is like the most unfun deck ever to play against, but I don't think that's a mystery to anybody. I'm going to try to go for starter, you know, in the draw phase. That way blue triggers in case my opponent plays Droll. But that's fine. You know, if you Ash that, that's cool. He has Ash and Effect Veiler. Well, I still have a starter, which I searched out, so I'm probably going to bring out red, you know, which is pretty decent. And luckily this has a decent like defense body, 1800. It's not like a lot, but it's not a little bit either. I'm just going to go ahead and negate there. I think I knew I was playing Flew Under Ease. And that's cool. You would think this is really bad for me, but it's actually like not. So my opponent's going to try to go for Eglin, and then he's going to go for Rabina to add back. Well, if I just negate that, then he better have another body in his hand, or else that Eglin is just going to be sitting there like a sitting duck. And it was. It's a little bit of a risk, but I think it was my only chance to like win this duel. I think I top deck a Jet. That's pretty sick. Yeah, my opponent just scooped. That's pretty wild. Flew Under Ease is such a weird, interesting. It's not interesting. It's such a weird deck. It's like so powerful, but it's so weak at the same time. Look at this. Normal summon barrier, activate dimension shifter. What a Flew Under Ease, man. Unbelievable. So I did have the imperm there, which is really fantastic. So I can kind of just like make my plays now. I'm going to go for blue. I'm going to search Jet. I don't remember what his set card is. Jet's going to, I thought it was imperm, but I guess that wouldn't really make sense. Unless he drew it off the top, but he would have activated dimension shifter. It is imperm. Okay, he waited a long time. Good for him. But that's actually like really bad for him. I have, you know, Effect Veiler in my hand and then Wally. So kind of just ate his hand traps, and you can't really do anything, right? I have so much interruption, you know, during his turn despite everything that he had put up so far. You know, through Ash Blossom, through an imperm, and then through Dimension Shifter, and then through Barrier Winds. Like, that wasn't enough to, like, me to set up a pretty, like, really interactive board. And then I just have one more duel to go over. A little, it's actually pretty good. So I can just normal summon Caddy. Caddy can summon Jet. That can search me starter, so I'm probably just going to go for like a really regular Spright play. It seems underwhelming, but it's like super like mega not. So I can search out red, so that's another form of interruption. So I can bring out red, special summon, and go into Gigantic Spright, bringing out a Wally, and then going into Elf. Elf can bring back red. And that's pretty decent. These have targeting protection. They're like pretty good forms of interruption. Caddy's also obviously very good. I already have Hop here in my hand. So this is probably more than enough, even for tier. You know, unless they had like Dark Ruler, obviously. But if my opponent's just trying to go for gas, you know, I feel pretty comfortable. I'm going to go ahead and, again, stopping those mill 5s can do a lot of work. His Rhino Heart's not going to go off. So that's really good. He's going to try to go for the Charmer. I'm just going to go ahead and go for the Kick Hallows. I want to pop the field spell. And then I can bring out the Penny. Penny can also quick effect during this time. You know, after that chain, he's not going to be able to use his Charmer. So I'm going to go ahead and send that back. Still have Imperm, right? Still have Imperm to go. And my opponent just doesn't have anything else. And that's obviously very good. Okay, so that is Spright Melffy. Let me know what you guys think about this deck in the comment section down below. Other than that, that's going to do it for today's video. And I'll see you guys next time.